AD.
Right, we should start.
Love to see you. I feel like a little behind because, yeah.
Can you turn it on?
Turn it on.
Yes.
I think this is on. Anybody at the remote? Can you hear us? A feedback of a
Yes,
cue.
we hear you well.
Yes, we
Yes,
can
it is
hear
all
you.
on.
Perfect. So in-room sound, I can hear myself. That's the monitor test. Excellent. We are on time, and I can do the opening. So this is the third day of the IETF 119 meeting in Brisbane. We are all trying to be awake, and I think that's working great because coffee here is plenty. My dear co-chair Alexei next to me, and I myself, Hank, will be your co-chairs for here today. This session, is every session in the IETF, is recorded. Let's see if my own click. Wow. So you all might know the note well. The note well is about whatever you say here. Please take care. There are IPR implications. So it's not only recorded, but also made public, and ownership might be a problem. So whatever you say here, take care that you know your IPR rules. There's also something. Oh, there's no note very. There's also something to note very well here, and that is be nice to each other. We are chairs sitting in front of you like teachers in school. Sometimes we can't see what happens in the last row of the classroom. So if you feel uncomfortable here at the IETF, that is a problem, if it is a human problem. So please come forward personally to the chairs. There are people here, there are the ADs here that you can trust that will take your concern into consideration. Then we have on the agenda, which you hopefully have already found, 2 items. People inside the room, please scan the QR code. The QR code makes us count people in the room. That is very important to select room sizes for meetings and save money for the IETF. I think that's great. Also, if you are remote attending, you're probably using the full Meet Echo clients who can see us here. If there is an issue, please track that. There is a link here. I don't know why it's an HTTP link. Probably that's a copy-paste error. And now we have to stop for formal procedure because these meetings need note takers. There's also at the agenda item a link to the note page. And now we must stop here until at least 1 individual, better as 2 volunteers as a note taker to capture decisions. Best case scenario, someone helps, maybe Warren might do that, to copy the raw notes into that, but it's just a random suggestion. And then we need at least 1 note taker. This is also the awkward pause that I can stand longer than everybody else. I'm a glitch. So note taking is about agenda items, not saying everything what is presented, but what is about said at the mic. And if there is a decision-making process from the chairs to capture that.
First, it looks like he's dying to do it.
Especially great English.
Okay, we can't always make the ADs do the work. So at some point, this working group owes something to the ISG that is better paid. Thank you, Warren. I'm trying to do a clicker thing, but maybe this might be the last slide.
No, it's because I try again.
No. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we had that. Chairs, there's us. There's something called the chat scribe. I think I can do that. And the minutes link is repeated here. Basically, this is all things you can also find in the agenda links now. So coming to the next item. This clicking thing doesn't really work when you do things. Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, this was us. We have 4 items for today. There we inherited an item from Elvik here. Carsten is talking about that the link was removed because I think just a few hours ago, maybe a day ago, The secretary actually updated the document link, so that's outdated and not here in the agenda anymore. We have from John the protocol comparison. Document updates, and Alex, has some comments.
And I promised, I swear, I just updated the PDF, but that's not the version that's I updated.
Yes. Also, yeah. Also, Meet Echo has a new feature that is called an auto update. That is a replacement for the manual update. And yes, you can see this is what is happening now. It is not auto updated. We have 2 other agenda items here for today. And I will have to pull them up from the agenda items. Sorry. So that is an update from Brandon Moran about the IOTOPS security summary. And we have a interesting problem statement presentation from Carsten Walter. That is a set of real-world problems, and the IOTOPS working group is here the helicopter landing platform for these kinds of problems, and maybe we can connect some of these problem statements with existing or emerging solutions. And that would be then the any other business at the end. You can't see all that what I just said. Is there any other business for agenda bashing right now? Going once, going twice. Then we can start 1 minute late with Carsten. And here's a probably working clicker.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk about 7228 bis. This is the very speaking name we gave to the document because most RFCs in our space are referencing 7228, which is the terminology for constrained node networks. And yeah, this document was written 10 years ago, so it's kind of time to look at it again. So this is the set of authors, and one of the co-authors is in the room, and I don't know how many are online. So basically, this was a work item of the LWIG working group. LWIG was one of the first IoT-oriented working groups we had in the IETF after 6LoWPAN. And the idea in LWIG was to write informational documents that help people implement constrained node networks. And there were quite a few nice documents coming out of that. 2021, we got a document about TCP and IoT. The author is in the back row. But at some point, we lost steam and decided to close this down, and IOTOPS was probably one argument. The setup of IOTOPS was one argument why this was possible. So this document was officially closed down in January this year. So 7228 bis already was some time in the works in the LWIG working group, a little bit slowed down at the end by LWIG getting slowed down. The original 7228 from 2014 was mostly concerned with giving some more well-defined basis to the term constrained, which we had been using. Of course, my engineering colleagues tell me that they never have designed a system that was not constrained in some way. I mean, this is the point about engineering, to live with your constraints. But yeah, it has gotten a specific meaning through this RFC and the discussion that preceded it. So this was mostly providing a linear scale with 2 points, class 1, class 2, and class 0, which means it probably doesn't work on the internet, and class more, we did never give a name to that. So 7228 bis does provide more classes because people actually wanted to have names for the more powerful, or as we now often say, capable classes. But it also defines some new scales. So for instance, we have now have a scale of points on energy availability. So we have devices that are energy limited to an event. So energy harvesting doorbell knobs, which only get power by pressing the bell. That's an E0 device, and there are period energy limited and lifetime energy limited. And yeah, I'm not going to go into the details here. You can read the document. And recently we added a few more like software updatability. There are quite a few different levels of updatability you can have, so that's interesting to have. We have energy use strategies, which are orthogonal to the energy that's actually available. And we have levels of isolation, so how much is the device able to run different pieces of code without them necessarily interfering with each other, which is again different from another scale for secret shielding, which is also something where we can now differentiate different classes. So the whole point here is that it's just faster to refer to one of these categories than to try to define it each time you need it. So this document is pretty well developed at this point in time, but LWIG is no more. And I had fun posting the update, because posting a document to a concluded working group is an unlit area, dusty area of the data tracker. So my document actually got stuck, which is the reason why the link was wrong. It has been posted last week, so you can now find it under this complicated name here. And what I really would like to do now is go into working group adoption with this document for this group. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Warren has to say.
Warren has a question for the chairs, and he doesn't know and feels that he should. Is this probably allowed within our charter or not? Like, I have no idea what the charter says anymore. Do you think we're allowed to? Pardon? Oh, okay. Cool. And the milestone fits within the charter, I hope.
Yeah, does it help in operating an IoT system to have terms about what you're talking about? Probably yes.
Oh, yeah, I agree that the overall thing is just
Yeah.
charter written in the way it fits. That like seems good work. But
Yeah, I think we had this
I
discussion.
cannot change to another tab. This will disable Karsten's clicker. Is it informational? Remind me.
This is information.
Okay, that's probably okay. Yeah. If not, I'm sure we can. Warren will be very helpful.
So I'm done.
I see. Yes, that looks good.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Warren, again. The charter says documenting operational practices. So we might need to like tweak the charter or something to make it fit, or at least talk to whoever the AD was for IoT Ops, sorry, for LWIG originally, and be like,
Right.
hey, does this okay? So like it might need some wiggling, but I think we'll make it fit.
Mhm.
And I'll also talk to the rest of ISG if they think that this terminology doesn't fit under operational, then we might just need to insert a word into the chat or something. But okay. Any comments on the document? I believe we already wanted to accept it last time, didn't we? Can I ask the authors of the document to remind chairs in a week or two? Because I think we still need to do the proper adoption call and not just assume that. I'm sure it will be fine, but So action item, remind chairs in 2 weeks. Thank you.
And this is a clarifying question from the chair, so we need that word in the charter beforehand? We do this at the same time?
Yes.
We can actually put the new into the adoption call so that everybody is aware.
Chances are annoying.
So I defy you to operate a network without having terms for what you're doing. So I think this is also an operational issue.
I would think so. I was also, again, obviously Warren is the boss, but I tend to think that we can adopt it anyway, and we just need to make sure that the charter is okay before it gets published.
Yeah. And I mean,
Or out of the working group, right?
and I mean, to be clear, I think we should be able to adopt it. I just want
Yeah.
to make sure that, we have the error
Okay.
cover to allow us to. So like it says operational practices, and this isn't really a practice, but like I'll try and weave things through.
Okay, formal action for us is then to do the process, and then we see how the other things work along in parallel. Thank you. Coming up next is John, if my memory doesn't fail me, and my agenda says yes. Just have to share your. So there's the clicker that like 95% of time works.
Great. So this is an update of comparison of co-op security protocols. It says 4 here. We have already uploaded 5 because I left some random text in the 4 version. It works. So basically all the changes between 0.2 and 0.4 is to address the early IoT Directorate review by Ross Housley. So we have added text explaining the difference between an authenticated key exchange, like the TLS handshake, and protocols for protecting application data, for example, TLS record layer. We added paragraphs to introduce the section on underlying layers, and we moved the more specific EDOC over co-op and OSCOR subsection to an appendix. Added a security consideration that was already the security consideration was basically empty, and Russ said at least refer to the security considerations of all the documents you refer to. So we did that, also added some links to newer best practice and recommendation documents. Short change to explain what a key identifier and certificate identifier is. And then we added references to all the algorithms. So all that is based on the IoT Directorate review, and it addresses all the comments, we think at least. Then some other changes, we added some new references to raw public key. We added a reference to the e-impact workshop RFC IAB document instead of to the workshop homepage. And then we added a reference to this new paper that has content likely to be interested for a reader of this draft. Then some editorial changes. We updated CTLS to 09. There's no technical changes in CTLS. I think the only thing that has happened the last year is formal verification. Looks to me that CTLS seems quite stable. Yeah, some quick. Here is the text added for underlying layers. Here's the text added for explaining difference between an authenticated key exchange and a security protocol. And here is the text for security considerations. And then there is a lot of smaller changes in the document, but these are the changes. There are no changes to any of the numbers anywhere. So next steps, two of the references are in OAuth 48, or actually they are in OAuth 48 done, ad hoc and ad hoc traces. We already made a PR fixing, updating to the RFC numbers. And this is also, so now also these protocols are referred heavily in, so now they will soon be RFCs. We have an editor's note in the document saying that, so CTLS is one of maybe 6 protocols analyzed, and it is in a draft version. It seems stable. And then we are also referring to, has been discussing in the TLS working group whether to have more compact encodings of the NIST P curves. The latest I heard from when presented, the comment was that we should adopt this if somebody wants to implement. And nobody has really said that they want to implement. What has happened is that Hannes Schoffening, which is an author of CTLS, said he wanted to be a co-author, but I have not really heard him to commit to implement. I think the chairs have said that they will have a working group adoption call, but that is also not happening. So yeah, I guess these are the open things. Need to take a decision, should we publish now? Is CTLS stable enough so that we can publish? I guess we keep things as is. If the TLS working group adopts new compact encoding, then we update and then we think that will be done and we update the document. Otherwise, if there's no working group adopt, then we don't. Otherwise, we have addressed all the issues. Yeah.
So yeah, I was clarifying question. I think what you are suggesting is we start working group last call. We park the document after that, waiting for the normative references to be done.
There is no normative references.
Well, if you, okay,
at least formally, but yes.
Okay, I think I might question this assertion,
Yeah.
in Shepard's review. But anyway, the thing is, it would be weird to publish RFC that reference, non-final version of CTLS,
Yeah.
and then CTLS changes, and then RFC is kind of, might not be entirely accurate, or might be accurate, and so you're happy with working group last call, then just wait a bit for. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Fine.
This is obviously any comments, questions?
Which seems to be fine. So we'll solicit appropriate reviews, and of course then the working group last call, and then make sure that this moves. And we'll talk to Hannes, I guess. Thank you. So next up is a remote presenter. So check with Brandon. Are you awake and able and willing to present?
Awake and able are debatable. Willing, yes.
Wonderful. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for the, I see on my clock how late it is in your country. So kudos. And we have to change the deck, yeah.
See if I can get a little more light here.
I think your lighting is appropriate. Okay, now.
Do you want me to drive slides or?
I don't mind.
Okay.
Then it's up to you. The floor is yours.
All right. I don't see any controls, so I guess you're driving.
Well, I think you need to request control.
Oh, I see. There it is.
Ask to share the slides.
No, you.
Oh, hold on. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Yes, this is an update from last time. It's not much of an update because there is no new version of the draft. Just as a reminder, we now cover 3 of the different baseline requirements drafts. One from ENISA, one from ETSI. I realize that's slightly redundant, but they are different drafts. And one from NIST, which largely references the ENISA draft. I suppose I should stop for a moment. In case you haven't seen this draft before, the idea here is that we're referencing the different baseline security requirements documents from across the industry. The point here is that an implementer who doesn't know the suite of IETF technologies that are available would be able to take one of these baseline security requirement documents and then look at what's available to meet the requirements in their requirement document by looking at this draft, and this security summary draft would then give them pointers to IETF technologies or adjacent ones, or indeed some of the underlying implementation technologies that are required to implement the requirements in their baseline security recommendation document. So this should hopefully provide a landing pad for implementers to be able to understand what exactly they need to do in order to meet the requirements that they have put upon them. So the last time we asked, is this draft done? We needed some reviews. Several reviews were offered. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. May I jump into the slide before? Can you give or can you say if this ENISA and ETSI norms cover already the CRA, which is valid in the European Union from 2026?
The CRA, these two
Cyber
dramatically
Resilience Act.
predate that, right? So the ENISA draft is from 2017. The ETSI draft is more recent. I forget the date on it. So I haven't looked at something that's valid from the future. I'll have to have a look.
Just agreed in the European Union that the CRA will be valid, and would be good hint to see for such devices if I follow this specifications or with norms, if I already fulfill the CRA. This would be good information.
Okay, I guess we'll have to have a look at that.
Carsten, what I hear is that you are familiar with that document. I mean, we all are a little bit with the Cyber Resilience Act, but would you be willing and able to help Brandon make this checkbox comparison for that? Yeah, clearly? Okay, then capture that in the minutes.
And more importantly than capturing it on the minutes, please do.
Yeah, also the topic on the next slide was several reviews were offered and, well, are pending. So do you want us, the chairs, to get this poking stick and do a round of, of questions here? Not here in the room, I mean, but follow as a follow-up action.
That sounds like it might be warranted, but if we're about to add something new in, then perhaps that needs to happen first.
Okay, so we keep that in the box and let you do the work first. Thank you.
Michael?
Michael Richardson. My about the CRA, it has been talked about a lot in places like RIPE and other stuff. My opinion is that there are no IETF protocols or procedures that will allow you to deal with the financial consequences of the CRA. So I don't think it will be in scope, but maybe we need to say so, but that's my opinion.
I suppose the other concern that I have to follow on with that, Michael, is that what we currently have is a draft that references 2 European standards and 1 US standard. And if we add in yet another bit of European legislation, then there's a real concern that this is going to appear to only be relevant to European implementers.
Well, that's a concern, I guess, from a balance point of view. But on the other hand, other jurisdictions don't have documents.
There is that.
Right. So it's not our fault if, I think that other jurisdictions are basically going to point to those other documents, particularly the ETSI one. I think it's particularly useful and relevant. And I've been in and out of that one for several years. And I think we do have lots of content that applies to it. I think the CRA is mostly a political, legal document. And unless we have a protocol to acquire a lawyer, I don't think that it's going to be, there's anything that we can point at within our space that will allow you to do the kinds of things that the CRA mandates. So I don't think it's particularly at all relevant, but maybe we need to actually say so.
Hi, this is Kohei. So thank you for keeping on working, Brendan. So I have some similar topic over MCR and Gasten. So recently, some government begin to make a certification program for IoT devices. So in the US, they started the cyber trust mark, and I also know that Singapore we begin to the similar ones. So the requirements we can get from the such as certification mechanisms or systems, or additionally, so there are some certification systems. So for example, matters. So yeah, that we can. I'm not sure with each system. So, but can we extract its requirements and matching with our IETF working? So, is there any considerations?
I'm not sure how to answer the question. Yeah, I mean, I think that keeping track of exactly what the certification requirements are in different countries is probably important, but I'm not entirely sure how certification is going to map to implementation technologies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I'll check that.
I mean, maybe we need to review that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I try to share the comments. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask again roughly the same question I asked last time. What's left? Do we need to reference more standards? Well, it sounds like we need to look at CRA and possibly certification requirements. And when I say look at, I don't necessarily mean reference. I might mean explicitly dereference. Michael, to your point. Do we need more authors? That would be helpful, I think, but that is up to the group if they want to come and volunteer. I suppose the other question is, if there isn't active review and there isn't, if there aren't more authors coming forward, does this draft actually need to progress, or is there no interest in it? So I guess the question to the group is, are you willing to continue with this, or do you just want to kill it? Because if it's just me shouting on a street corner, then we don't really need this.
Brendan, chairs, we did have a action item to nag people to review, and we weren't on top of it. So, but I added this to my to-do list, so hopefully we'll get it done for next time.
Okay.
As a participant, my personal opinion, I think we probably should get as many reviews as possible. If people will bring up, I wish you considered the X or Y, as a source of extra information, then maybe that would be a feedback for the next round. And if not, then depending on review, if the document is ready, we'll send it to ISG.
Okay.
So I think, try to get reviews and just see how good it is.
Sounds good.
Carson?
No, AJ Stein.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
Hi.
AJ?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I might have a network drop in about 30 seconds thanks to my VPN, so I'm going to make this brief. Brendan, this seems interesting. I guess I should know something about the other documents because my employer makes them, but I guess I'll look into that, so I'm willing to review. You make it seem as if you're the only person that might want this or need this, but can you explain what your rationale for you authoring this document is before I review it?
This document is an evolution of a previous document. It was essentially an attempt at best practices originally. Let's take a look at what you have today. If you were going to start a brand new IoT device, what would you use, and how would you make it a high security device? And that rapidly shifted on the advice of this group into less of a best practices document and more of a menu item, or a set of menus of the available technologies and why you might want to use them based on what standard or what requirements you're working from.
Okay, I guess my question is, can you really implement an IoT device that way? Where you just
Good
look at a
question.
carte blanche? Well, I was curious about your individual rationale for working on this, but maybe I could take this outside of the Q&A and the queue, because I can review it, but I'm intrigued as to maybe I just need to talk to you about why you started or continue to work on this draft outside.
Well, like
of
I
this
said,
context.
I
lost the first
as
15
a
seconds of it, by the way.
document.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. I'm willing to review it in either case. So
thank you.
That's the least I could do after wasting people's time. Thank you.
Okay, so Carsten Bormann, I really want to have this document, so that's answering a question you just had. I may be a bit reluctant to offer a formal review because I want this document because I don't want to read the 3 other ones.
This did not compute. I'm sorry. You don't want to review it because you just trust that it's summarized correctly, or?
Well, of course, I can always look into these other documents if I'm really interested in a specific answer. But having a document that comes from somebody who has intelligently read the other 3 documents and offers a summary of that makes use of IETF terminology and IETF knowledge is extremely useful.
I don't think for reviews there is a requirement to be familiar with the documents being referenced.
I can certainly review it as a document.
Okay, fine. Because I'll tell you a secret. I will review without reviewing the underlying documents. I just want to make sure that requirements make sense and are readable. I mean, like, if people want to read the reference document, that obviously a plus, but I don't think it's a requirement. Otherwise, it's too high of a bar for us.
This is Henke's chair. But AJ, you were highlighting that you could have a NIST point of view when you review
I'm
the document.
I'm afraid to do that, but I mean, unofficially, we're all individuals. But yes, I remember where I work.
Yeah, I mean, there's your strong familiarity to happenstance. Yes.
But my strong familiarity to read. But I actually rejoined the queue because I kind of have a question. This is part of a collection of documents that NIST makes that seems to be a common trend we have, and I wanted to just address this with Brendan. So this is like a collection of, it's a mapping. At least there's a mapping of other things. So are we relying on that mapping to be accurate and correct, and that we're looking at the other control or requirement frameworks from different countries through the lens of, well, NIST says it's equivalent, X in NIST land is equivalent to Y in NIST land, and that's fine? Or you actually took the time to read them separately? Because there's like a catch-22 in all of this that gets messy, which is why your face tells me you are super excited for this really annoying question.
So yeah, no. This is actually kind of an entertaining question, because if you've read the IoT device cybersecurity capability core baseline, you will know that it already references the NISA baseline security recommendations for IoT in many places. And as a result, doing that mapping was substantially easier because NIST already did it.
Okay. But we're taking that to be the correct mapping, and we're not going to have to look at other documents. Like, you haven't made a determination. You're just going to accept it de facto that that's good enough.
I mean, no. I'd also read through what the requirements were. I looked at what they actually said, and whether that was equivalent to my interpretation of NISA's requirements. Having read their rather lengthy ones as well. So you guys are just trusting me at this point because nobody else has done this.
My only fear about this is maybe tangential, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. I in a prior project, I worked on building information models that I know in other groups would be much beloved in IETF because we love heavy data information models and semantics, but I used to build things that were like mapping requirements in one control set to another. And the presumption that both parties map one-to-one and presume that their mappings are equivalent in every way is usually not how it happens in reality. So I guess I'll have to read the supporting documents, but I did volunteer to review, and I guess that's kind of par for the course, but that's why I wanted to know how you were using this. But I guess now this is just getting rambly at about midnight my time and not really constructive comment. There's probably other things to do. So Hank, you're going to cut me off after this. I'm going to go on mute and I'm going to remove myself from the queue.
All right. So I do have a couple of discussion points, which we may be out of time for. So cut me off if you need to. One of them is, what does baseline actually mean? Because all three of these said baseline, but if you look at them, if you look through the individual standards that I reference, none of them specifies how you surpass baseline. They all say baseline, but the baseline that they ask for is actually pretty good. And then there's nothing else. I don't think these are baseline requirements. I think they're just requirements. And maybe that's something we need to call out. Maybe it's not. I don't know. The second bit is we have a lot of non-protocol requirements that get pitched around by these three other documents. And right now, we're noting where these exist in this draft, but not explicitly giving guidance on how to satisfy those requirements. And so far, I think that just noting that they're there is probably the right answer. But, you know, if you need to keep your firmware signing keys secure is a requirement. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can satisfy that are appropriate for your particular use case. And I'm not sure we're in the right position to tell you how to do that. So yes, maybe those are discussion points for the list then. And that's all I've got.
So this is Hank as a chair again. So I think the securing your items with technology discussion is, I think, the one that would attract attention the most first, especially because whenever you bring up a topic that is somehow complementary to this kind of securing technologies, people want to work to merge it into that work, but it's already existing somewhere. So basically, it's a pointer. So if it's an IETF document, it could have pointers to other places here in the IETF in the end. So we map not only between documents but also to places here. But that's maybe this part of a discussion.
All right, sounds good. If there are no other comments or questions, I'll get out of the way.
Thanks, Brandon. Thank you for staying up so late and presenting here. So next up, oh, we have Karsten. Yeah, exactly. So your slides are in the system, and there's a apparently working clicker.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. So just for introduction, so after 10 years of working in IoT or on IoT devices and seeing many problems not disappearing, I thought it was time to get here to IETF, maybe to find somebody to talk about, maybe also to find some solutions. And so thankfully I have here a slot to present what problems we talk about. But first of all, so what is our background? So IoT in our meaning is not wireless, because many people think IoT is always wireless. We make network-able things, so small switch, temperature sensor, something like that, always connected to the network, so we have full network capability. And also one other side is that we deal with virtual machines, which we heavily use in the field, so on edge computers. So also some sort of resource constrained devices, which in the end, all operation is done over a network. And our main businesses are industry, building, and agriculture here. Just what you see, these are our servers in this scale. So in the terminology of Karsten, it was, I think, EC4, always powered, but yeah, only 200 kilobyte of memory. What's important to know, and what I figured out here also already in the days, our user is the normal average user, which previously connected sensors to MPLC. And now has to connect things via network. And this is our goal to support them. And this is where we face the problem. It's not that any of the issues I will tell, I'm pretty sure everyone here in the room can solve it on the terminal. But the problem is how to can it be solved so that the customer don't face these issues. So our normal network looks like this. We mainly have in switch, so no router. This is also one of the differences here. So everyone thinks network starts with a router. In our case, it's different because we have many offline setups which are just sometimes connected to an upper network. And so this offline operation is very important. Just think of a plow, which is disconnected from tractor, but has a lot of sensors and you want to do maintenance. And this is the typical setup. Only a few nodes will need to communicate outside of that. So this was the setup. So I said very small nodes. So come to the problems. One we face is misleading MDNS name resolution. So if you ask for a name which is needed because nobody wants to enter IPv6 addresses by hand, then you will get back a list of IP addresses. But in the situations, often it's the host not in all these networks. For example, if you have a local network where you have maybe for virtualization assigned ULA addresses, then the operator comes with its laptop, but this laptops will not accept this router advertisement. But with an MDNS resolution, you will get a unique local address. In the end, the technician cannot access the device. Also because there are a lot of software layers in between the user and the address resolution, we think, or there are many problems, and we think it's just unnecessary because the user already tells the system in which scope it wants to communicate. If it's local, yeah, just get back a link local address because this is readable. If you want to connect inside a company network, yeah, just take an ULA address. If wants to connect to a global server, just take a global address here. So, and make this mapping from the domain to the address, which is given back from MDNS, would solve many problems because now some software in the stack gets back a list of addresses, and you can be very sure that it selects the wrong one, which is not working in this special case. Next is also according to name resolution that names sent to name servers. And this has different effects. Sometimes if you have a local DSL router or something like this, does not respond at all. And so your system waits to a timeout while the system timeout is longer than the browser timeout. For the user, again, cannot access the device. Or other situations we had, the name was sent to a global name server of a company. And the name server assigned already an address. Oh, okay, maybe sometime in the future this device will appear and send back an IP address this device will never get. And again, user cannot access. So also having here some things working that .local addressing is not done or rejected by name servers in this end would be helpful. This is we see or I've seen here in the last days the zone ID. This is a real pity because of the lacking support of the software. So our software can deal with it, but the user uses its laptop, use libraries like Node.js, and it's all it's not good supported, let's say it this way. Basically, the handling of the zone ID has also some other implications. So you can use it as a link to a target because this is local information in that. So this is one of the main points to get IPv6, especially in such offline environments, up and running.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Quick question. Do you want questions as we go, or do you want questions at the end?
As you want. So,
okay. So Michael, if you want, if it's related to this, you can come right away.
Probably 3.
Yeah, so I was intrigued by your last point. Creates more problems now than it solves later.
Exactly.
So I agree it creates problems now. And, you know, yeah, I've been upset with the whole browser situation. But What problems do you think it solves later that aren't worth solving?
So one is the ambiguity if you have conflicting link local addresses on several interfaces. So we don't have in most of the times. So just the laptop of the user is probably a victim for this case, and then it's very unlikely. So because the systems always have just one interface, so the nodes has just one. Also, our containers, Linux containers, also have just one interface. But we all have to deal with the zone ID, which causes no problem, while only on certain machines there will be a problem with a conflict to have the link local address on the same link local address on different links.
So Linux does not implement a default zone. Other operating systems do. Windows specifically does. If Linux had implemented a default zone, would that solve your problem?
Most likely, yes.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, so Windows recently worked very well. So I think 2019 it was a real problem. After that, it gets better.
I'm shocked that Node.js doesn't accept it, but okay.
Yeah, Node.js is a real pain here. Yeah, but this would be one I think would solve most of the problems if we have a default zone ID. Man said support for offline environments. This is real hassle. For example, Chrome deactivates IPv6 completely if Chrome cannot reach an IPv6 server in the internet. So if you're somewhere just in a local network, this doesn't help much, while the standard says IPv6 link local is mandatory. So also Windows here deactivates MDNS or local name resolution in unknown networks by default. So the technicians typically have not the right to change this setting because their computers are administrated by someone else, by IT services. And so this is also a problem. Of course, IPv6 addresses, if name resolution is not working in this local environments, we come back to the zone ID of the problem. And then also one problem is the support for the user. So when I switched to Apple, I think 8 years ago, there was in the browser and drop-down bar where I could see all locally available web browsers as I could see local printers in the printer dialog. And think of that. These devices are hidden in the ceiling. If you are in agriculture, there's mud on it. You cannot read the device name anymore. So how to find out? And this would be pretty good. Of course, I think it's not an issue here for IETF, but just to mention to better the usability for the average user, not for the or for people here, because everyone here can use DNSSD on command line. Then another problem, short certificate lifetime. We have with small devices, which are maybe unpowered for years, remembering up, and you cannot access it with a browser anymore to configure it because certificate is invalid. And you have it as a normal issue if you have a firmware reset, for example. And for me, it's a different kind of device here than going to a bank account in the internet. So having here different levels somehow, I think it would be helpful. Just a second.
Can I ask a clarifying question? What is short-lived for you?
Anything beyond below 30 years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, this is a typical lifetime of a machinery in the industry.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we typically call short-lived. For us, it's like 30 days or something, but okay, thank you.
Yep. So Then also one thing which we solve for our products is security. Of course, we cannot access each device with username and password, so we did it on certificate level. And typically we have 3 roles. One is the normal user, which can just read data from a sensor or can control an actuator. Then you have someone who can more maybe make calibration to a sensor and a library. And then you have an administrator who brings in the device into the application, supplies it with certificates and so on. And so after 10 years, we never needed more than these 3 roles for all of application we've seen in practice. We implemented this by using an extension field of X509 certificates, but we don't know about any standard here. And this would be quite helpful to be interoperable with other systems, because we don't want to be the only company which makes IoT devices. And so I think this is in general topic, having an agreement on how this authentication authorization can work on certificate-based with role model here. Yeah, this is the only problem which is widely solved. Yeah. So I just asked back. So last year we had the problem with Chrome, but it's now disappeared. Now they don't send 2 big packets anymore. And so we can see this as solved. Just as a reminder, keep in mind, we have resource constrained devices. In our case, we have 200 kilobyte on memory. And so in the end, we have 10 network buffers with 2 kilobyte, which we have to live with. And I think there are some other problems which have less memory available. And this is really one problem. I don't know if it fits here, but this is a real pity. Virtualization is a really cool thing. We use it heavily. But the virtualization platforms all understand itself as a router, except LXC. And with that, all the zeroconf I mentioned before, MDNS, name resolution, and so is not working anymore. And now it starts also with snaps. If you have an Ubuntu with a browser installed now, you cannot access our devices anymore. And this is a real pity. So routing has a reason, but in our setups, if I go back, so we have mostly a flat network. So all the containers which are on the edge computer should be in the same layer 2 net as the sensors to have the zeroconf capability. And routers you need if you want to communicate somewhere else. And this is good for. But we see it that routers are used just because they also can be used, not knowing that it breaks much things. And this is a real problem we face. Yeah. Of course, I have several other issues I can say here, so or I can present here. But I said I'm here to find people to talk with me on these issues, and may also link me to people who can help to solve it. And may there's also possibilities in IETF to solve some of the problems at least.
So this is Hank starting to respond. So yeah, we have this is kind of an interesting dispatch problem, because we're dispatching problems now, and I think this working group should first of all be aware of them. So that's happening. We're sharing the slides. I will be recording, and maybe cherry pick a first item from that list, and float that on the IoT Ops list, and with the help of the chairs and some other working group members, we can try to find appropriate places, or maybe other people experience with the problem. So I think that is and please Warren, correct me if I'm wrong, that is a kind of a dispatch function for the problem statements, I'd guess, because there are no documents we have to dispatch here right now. So, and some might stay here if there are people here that can be, if the charter allows for it. But first of all, I think it's very important to find a set of more than one people that would really be interested in helping or finding or directing or the path blazing here. And that is an interesting exercise. I think that's exactly what we're here for. And this will probably be also our challenge here as chairs to support the process. Okay, so there aren't any guarantees, of course. But again, I would start with a first problem, basically pointing out the presentation on the list again and selecting one problem that you think would be pretty IETF-ish from your point of view, just saying, and we can help selecting that. And then we go from there.
Yeah, fine.
Lexi?
Right. I mean, like, obviously you don't get everybody who can help you here in this room, whether like physically or virtually. So for some problems, it might be just implementation issue of existing standards, but lacking implementations, or it can be, you know, somebody already solved it. So, but yeah, please, absolutely. I think that's one of our missions, is to help with this sort of things.
Thanks.
And Michael, press the button maybe.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, you get a pass. One.
Michael Richardson, Mike. I think, but I'm not 100% sure, over in routing areas and this kind of stuff, they do things like operational reports on how things are working with deployment of certain protocols. And that's often a requirement to move, you know, from whatever we call it, proposed standard to internet standard.
Right.
And sometimes those are quite detailed. I don't know if we've done them in the last decade or two, but sometimes they really show up as, you know, right presentations or apricot presentations. And I see this presentation, everything you said here was really interesting to me. Okay. I don't know if Brian Carpenter is remote somewhere, but I mean, we had a lot of struggling in V6 Man about getting the browser document even published. Now the pushback, you know, is, oh, well, no browsers are going to implement it, so why bother, right? So there's an effort, I don't want to go into it, essentially to say, well, we need a browser that's IoT focused.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and is not, you know, dominated by banking issues.
Yeah, to respond to that. So what I see is browsers developed in the last decade just to the internet. If you think of IoT, then the majority of servers is in local environment, and maybe this is needed shift here.
I worked on a project with a TMS 470 that spit out, you know, the beginning of the text and then thought for 10 minutes before it spit out the rest of the HTML, and would, you know, that doesn't work anymore. But it sure worked just fine at the time, and it was a really cool future-proof GUI for a very simple 16-bit controller, right, which we spoke to over SLIP, right? And I kept pushing for PPP because it would auto-configure with Windows, but there was pushback of what we're doing works fine, and we can give the administrators enough buttons to push we can give the non-privileged user enough buttons to turn on SLIP on their Windows machine, and I don't think that worked in the end. But there's no internet draft associated with this presentation, if I'm not mistaken. No. So I think it's worth writing down your experiences there. I don't know if we would ultimately publish it as a RFC, but I think it's really useful to have a further conversation about the experiences that you have. I think that from your document, there might be one or more BCPs that say, here's an interesting solution to the problem given the constraints of all these things. And particularly, I think in the IETF, we are very much inured or blind to the experiences of the average technician, as you wrote, who is not allowed to configure anything on that computer. And my answer has usually been, get them to install VirtualBox, and then you can have something that you actually can control. And I don't know if that's our technical answer, but maybe it doesn't scale to other places. But maybe in some cases, you know what, there isn't a problem with having a button that on a lockdown computer can turn MDNS on and off, which would be an administrative thing, but that would be okay to delegate to some users, right? And at this point, they would then be able to say, but I have this requirement to do blah, 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 specified in RFC blah, 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 so give me the button, right? So I think this is exactly what I think this working group is for. So thank you for doing all of this.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is Hank as a person in the line. So when I feel that I have a problem and then I have to write an internet draft to make other people understand my problem, that puts the onus on me. That is a threshold. So now putting my head on again, sorry. If you're comfortable writing an internet draft about your problem statements, that's A-okay. And I think even I personally would help you creating an internet draft if you are not experienced with that. And that is something that we would set up the environment and all that.
Would be my first, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to, I think that's also our task to lower that threshold. But that is why I started with maybe write an email first, but then also the first reply could be crickets. And that is not also a very good experience. So maybe you can do both somehow in parallel, but if you are willing to put this in text in the form of an internet draft, I as an individual, I would be able to help you here.
Yeah, Michael Richardson again, I will also be very happy to take whatever emails or descriptions coming back and forth that way. And I don't think that the bar has to be that high. That's why I'm saying I don't think we have to think about this is something I have to publish. It's something that we have to discuss. And the reason an ID is better is because it means that if we go over to 6-man or V6 ops or whatever, blah, 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 and they're just like, what are you talking about, right? No, we can put the context in that. And I think that Hank and I don't know, Warren behind me, can properly scope the thing. And then you can just tell us your shaggy dog story. Okay. And I think that would be really useful. And by the way, the things that you've gone through here today, I've seen this before, okay? And my problem has always been that the people are focused outward in their own problem domain, and they don't have time or energy or experience to find the other people that are also having that. We had a presentation a couple IETFs ago from some, I think they were German energy sector people, right? And actually they have similar issues, but their equipment is hopefully never covered with mud.
You see?
Just untouchable because you'll die.
I think maybe slightly rephrase part of what you said is there might be people willing to help.
Yes.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of feels like nobody considered how all the bits fit together when we started doing this internet thing. But yeah, I mean, I agree it would be great to have it in a draft, but what might be useful for now is just like opening a bunch of issues on a GitHub thing, or like a wiki, or just like some list of issues so that we don't lose track of them. And then we can start putting them into a document or something. Just like start off with a list, you know, copy and paste from presentation or something, just so we don't get sidetracked and forget.
And that could be the exact same place where we incubate that ID, because GitHub is great for that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Carsten Norman. So you may have seen that this was done with a Markdown tool because I wanted to collect Markdown from Carsten so we can turn this into an internet draft really quickly.
Oh.
And so that's what's going to happen next. And yes, doing issues on that repo will be one way of doing things. Doing PRs will be one way of doing things. And so I think we can easily take it from here.
Well, thank you then for bringing this to us. Thank you for the long ride, I guess. I don't know, and I hope that is a good outcome here for you. And there's somebody in the queue now. Okay, everybody is there.
So the right was Wolf. Thanks a lot.
And again, setting up that repo and how that works, just we can just kick it off. Okay. Right. Yeah. Any other business? Exactly. Now we have 15 minutes left if my clock is not off. And is there any other business and something you wanted to say but never dared to say until this moment? Because there are mics. What are you saying? So there's so if that is not the case, we can give you all 50 minutes of your life back and maybe an early pick of the whatever is outside pastries. Thank you for attending. Thank you for coming.
So several IETFs on this already.